you know what I could really do with right now? A lovely bit of podcast. Hello and welcome to In the Pocket, the bass guitar podcast where we get the lowdown on the low end. My name's Johnny, a totally average bass player, and each week I'm joined by a different guest to talk all about that bass. I am the special guest this week because I'm that special, okay? Get over it. This week, 'tis just I. We might be changing up the way that this podcast works a little bit in the future, or just getting some more guests on, etc. Because I'm sure they're all very, very bored of just hearing me talking to myself in my silly little man den. So each week I ask you guys to submit some questions, and then we talk through them as well as the news. Listen to a different tone that I'm enjoying at the minute, and then go on to our big bass debate, which is one of the big questions of the week. So to submit your questions, head on over to my Instagram at Johnny Dibble, where you can look out on my stories to get that cheeky old podcast submission post that's on there. So yeah, head on over there to avoid missing out. Little bit of admin up top. My giveaway bass is now up for grabs. Well, I mean, it's always been up for grabs, but I have announced the final I've put out the final video on the giveaway bass, so you can see it in its final form. Basically, you guys have been building it with me and deciding what happens to it. So I'm really excited about the final product. I think it's really cool. And one of you at home is going to win it by commenting on the latest video or any of the videos in the giveaway playlist. So make sure you go and do that. September the 14th is when I will be doing the giveaway. Okay, it's going to be done via a live stream, not being given away in the comments like some bloody bots have been doing. You just put the hashtag giveaway in there and they just come clambering on over like, oh, we're gonna steal someone's money and identity and life. So yeah, don't fall for that, please. It's only going to be announced during the live stream that I do on September the 14th, 9 p.m. British summertime. Okay, so make sure you go and enter that competition, and we're going to listen to that bass in a little bit. But first of all, let's go on to our first question. First question comes from Lucas _4531 _ on Instagram, who says Darkglass or Sansamp. Greetings from Germany. Hi Lucas, greetings from the UK. This is always a subject that I am flip-flopping over. I go back and forth all the time as my preferences and taste changes over time, or I'll hear one video of someone doing a Darkglass pedal and I'll be like, oh, that sounds good in that context, and then I get it and I'm like, I don't really want to use it really for that context, but it sounded so good when they were using it, but it's just not me. So my journey, I'm a long-term Sansamp lover. The Tech 21 Sansamp bass driver is just a timeless pedal and I absolutely love it. I love that kind of clangy, scoopy, high mid scoop sound that you get from it. It's just a bit of me. But I've had the standard one, then I sold it to get an MXR, I think it was, and I sold that to get a Darkglass I think that was the B7K I had then, because I've had the B7K, the X Ultra, the Vintage Ultra, and the Alpha Omega. So at the minute, my setup until very recently has been the Vintage Ultra with the Alpha Omega, and both fantastic pedals. But I just found I was just kind of using the Vintage Ultra as just like a bit of just like a clean boost almost. And I really, really love the sound of the distortion of it when you're going into like my recording setup, but not so much through an amp. It was a bit too like grainy, I thought, a bit too much top end, a bit thin. And I would just find myself going to the Alpha Omega for that. So I kind of thought, what's the point on having this expensive pedal doing just that? So recently I have sold. Oh no, I haven't actually. It's still here. I haven't sold it yet. I'm kind of clinging onto it until I make my final decision. But when I got my new amp, my Laney Digbeth setup, I was playing it and I was like, oh, do you know what? This is great sounding, but a Sansamp through this would sound incredible. So I actually bought a Sansamp at the same time from the same person I bought the cab from, and so I've got that and put it on the board, and I have missed having a Sansamp. I had the programmable one with the 3 switches before, which was handy, but I find with Sansamps, obviously their whole thing is scooping mids, and that is what I didn't really like about the 2 old ones. It's got its sound, but there's less control. Whereas the version 2 one that's out now, and the one that I've now got, has a mid control, and you can select the frequency as well. So I think that's a super, super handy thing that makes the pedal way more versatile. And I've got pretty much everything set at noon. I think the treble or presence is slightly higher, like 1 o'clock. I tend to keep the drive fairly low and then just balance the level with that. And with the blend, I have that in the middle. For me, Darkglass are fantastic. Like, they've got their sound though, and you've got to really buy into that sound. Like with the X Ultra, I was using that as a preamp and then distortion, and I just found that when you put the distortion on, it just kind of took over the wavelength and just completely changed the sound. It wasn't like transparent enough for me, so I was like, I don't just want the Darkglass sound. I want my bass to shine through underneath, which is what I've actually really enjoyed about the vintage. I think that's definitely the most true, quote, true sounding pedal, where it's your setup. You can kind of hear it the most. You kind of get less of that Darkglass sound over the top of it. It doesn't start sounding like a dingwall. And fantastic pedal. I think it's really good, and it's got the cab sim on it, which is great because it's the version 2. But for me, every single time I just go back to Sansamp. And so for me, I'm gonna have to say Sansamp. At the minute, I've got the Sansamp, but also with the Alpha Omega in the chain as well on my pedal board. So I've kind of got a bit of both at the minute. But the Alpha Omega is just the standard one, so it's just the distortion. It's not like, you could have it as just a preamp without any drive, but that's not really what this one's for. The Ultra is for that, if you want to separate the clean and distorted tone. But I really like having a clean, glassy, punchy, clean tone, and then be able to add distortion onto that, and the Sansamp is perfect for that. So yeah, that's my current setup. So for me, the answer, sorry Darkglass, has got to be Sansamp. Let's move on to the next segment. We're here with the news. It's time for the news. Can you imagine if like BBC News had its own theme tune like that, and like all whilst that's going on, you know, like all the news anchors are like in conversation, they're like and then turn to look at the camera during it, like an 80s sitcom or something. Just pitching here, that I think that would be really good. And even if it's like, ta-da, here is the news, here now is the news. Tonight, 10 people found dead. I mean, that's not funny in itself, but I just found that contrast would be ridiculous. Maybe that's why they don't do it. In fact, that's definitely why they don't do it. Okay, moving on to the bass news. We can have happy music all day with the bass news, because hey, all bass news is good news unless somebody's died. Anyway, I'm getting away with myself. Ernie Ball, Music Man, have announced some short scales. They've now got short scale Stingrays in production, brand new for 2022. This is exciting. I do really like a short scale. I'm kind of on a Mustang hype at the minute with short scales. I really want one. But yeah, this comes at an exciting time, I think. We saw, obviously, Sterling do short scales. We've had a couple of artist models, the Joe Dart one and Tim Comerford have had short scale versions. And these come in some really, really nice looking finishes too. We've got a purple one with a white pick guard and black hardware, all roasted maple necks as well, I believe, from looking at them. And, you know, Danny Higgins, if you're listening, you know, if you're after a short scale, I think that's the one, bud. Then looking at over across, oh man, I've just remembered the one that I really liked. I've just seen it in a picture. And, oh my God. We've got a kind of standard looking sunburst one, which looks pretty cool. Looks really nice with the neck, I think. Burnt Ends, sorry, it's called. Ooh, all right. Vincent Blue. Oh my God, the purple one's called Plum Crazy. I love that. Candyman, which is a red. Most of these are with maple necks. Oh, in fact, no, only 2 of them have maple necks. Which is the sunbursty one and the star of the show, I think, which is Silver Shadow. Incredible. I absolutely love a silver base now. Never used to, now I do. Looks really cool. Black pick guard, 2-band preamps on these, which, if I'm honest, I kind of prefer that. I don't know why. With Stingrays, like, I really like the 2-band preamps as opposed to the 3 bands. I can't explain it, but I feel like I just like having less control at my fingertips. That's why I like a P-bass so much. Less to go wrong. But yeah, this is really cool. I think that it's been a long time coming. I expect these Sterling short scales have done phenomenally well. And I think they still will continue to do well because these short scales they're $2,400. Wow. Oh, hang on. It's on their website. It says, yes, limited to 25 worldwide. Flippin' heck. That is not a lot. So sounds like these might be fairly exclusive. Exciting nonetheless, though. I think that short scales quite suit have like humbuckers, especially an active one as well. That will sound really plump and juicy. A plumpy plum crazy. Nice. Okay, that's enough of that. Next up is Harley Benton. Our good friends at Harley Benton, always doing good stuff. They have just announced a new pedal, which is, I think, really exciting. It's the Harley Benton Double Down. £75 this is. It's a compressor and bass octave all in one. You can either have the effects together or separately, or there's a switch in the middle which allows you to go from A into B, A or B to A. This pedal sounds so unique. I really like it. So you've just got one big compressor knob and a volume and EQ, so just like a tone control for your compressor. Very nice and simple. And then the exciting bit is the bass octave section. We've got 4 knobs on here, one for sub, one for dry, perfect, it would be awful without a dry blend, and then one for upper, so the volume of your sub and the upper. Now the 4th knob is where it's most interesting because you've got 11 presets on here. An example of the presets is basically what octaves you want to be in there, and there's loads of different options, which is really, really good for bass players, I think. So we can have it as +1 and -1, -1 and +2, -1 and -2, -2 and +1, -2 +2. There are so many options on here. You can have +1, +2, -1, -2. What? You just have so much in there. I feel like a lot of those settings are going to be really useless, but then there are some in there which is exactly what you'd want out of a pedal like this. The only thing that's a bit weird about it is that I can't see one that's just -1 or just +1 or just, you've got -1 and +1, but not the 2 together. I need to look into it a little bit more. Maybe. Oh, I can see the other side now. No, there's none of them just by themselves. I'm really looking forward to hearing this pedal because I want to see what kind of creations people do with it. I'd love to check one out as well because I think it's potentially a really cool combination of different pedals. And yeah, I love a good octaver. I love a good octaver. So yeah, good stuff, Harley Benton. I want to see more. It's not just copying other pedals either. It sounds like it's quite a unique their own design, so that I'm aware of anyway. But yeah, really cool. I like it. Moving on to the next bit, which isn't news at all. It's just me, okay? This is just news from my front. And that news is that I am thinking about getting a new bass, okay? And I need your help. I am stuck at the minute. I kind of said to myself, right, into this year, I actually want to spend some money on a bass. I want to get a nice bass. I want to spend over £1,000 on a bass. I rarely do that. In fact, I've never done that before. And I always said to myself, look, the only thing at the minute that's in my collection, I'm like, I feel like I do want to upgrade, is my Stingray situation. I really want an American Stingray. I kind of don't want to go over 1,500. I'd like to spend under that if possible. So a second-hand kind of mid-noughties maybe Stingray that I'd be after. Preferably 2-band EQ, maybe. See what comes up. I'm mainly looking in the second-hand market. However, I had my sights set on a Stingray until I started thinking and doing some more research into Dingwall. Now I'm a love-hater of Dingwall. I think they're fantastic for what they do, and I know that they are super diverse basses, but I couldn't get like a combustion myself. Like I don't know. I don't the vibe it gives. I don't know. However, what I really like is Thunderbirds, and what I really like even more is the D-Rock. Originally they did the D-Bird, and now they've got the D-Rock. The D-Rock standard is well within my price range that I'm looking at. It's passive, but it kind of gets that Stingray sound when you've got the bridge and middle pickup. No neck dive either. I'm really torn. So this is news that I want to buy a bass, and I need your help. Okay, comment down below. What do you think I should go for? Shall I go? I'm looking at 4-string, by the way. Shall I go for an American Stingray, or get the Dingwall D-Rock? I've reached out to Dingwall to be like, hey, can I review one and then see if I like it and want to buy it? So hopefully that would be really cool and we could do something together. But if they don't, then I'm still in the same situation. So I'm not sure at the minute. Comment down below or send me a message on Instagram. Let me know, what do you think I should do? A Stingray is more timeless. I feel like I'm less likely to go off a Stingray. But I don't know. The D-Rock is very exciting. Let's move on to our next segment. Next question comes from Louis. Louis spelled L-O-U-I, and then a 5. So I guess that's meant to be like an S. So pretty cool. Louis _ Valcourt, V-L-L-C-R-T. There's no vowels in there, which is ironic because it sounded like Valcourt. Anyway, sorry. It says, which is more versatile, a jazz or a PJ? Ooh, can be tough. And I think this all comes down to what you class versatile as. The word gets thrown around a lot. And often, like, for instance, like a P bass isn't versatile in the sounds it can do, but it's incredibly versatile in what genres it can fit into and what situations it fits, because it just fits all situations, or most, or you can make it sound amazing in many situations. Anyway, so I think you kind of got to ask yourself, what do you mean by versatility? I think a lot of basses can sound good in lots of different genres. A P, a jazz, and a Stingray can all sound good in loads of different genres, I think. So I'm going to take versatile in this instance as like different sounds you can get out of it, I suppose. For me, it's a PJ. PJ is more versatile. I think that a jazz has a brilliant sound. I love jazz basses, but I feel like if you had a jazz versus a PJ, particularly like a mix or something, you're not going to tell that much difference. That bridge pickup makes a hell of a difference, I think. So jazz or PJ sound fairly similar, maybe a bit growlier on a PJ, but then you kind of almost sometimes get Stingray-esque sounds by those two pickups with each other. So I feel like I'm always torn because I do love a jazz, but I feel like a PJ I would just rather have. However, I don't think a PJ does a jazz bass sound better than a jazz bass, because that's impossible. So I think a jazz, oh God, I don't know. I'm fighting with myself here. But if you were to take away the bridge pickup and solo that neck pickup or the middle pickup, the PJ is going to be more versatile, because it sounds like it's just a P bass then. Whereas jazz pickups, it sounds P bass-esque, and it does, people say, oh, it just sounds like a P bass then. It doesn't though, does it? Like, it doesn't quite sound like it. It doesn't quite have that mid-range growl that a P bass does. It still sounds within that realm when you're getting closer, but it's not quite there. So I would be inclined to say that a PJ is more versatile in terms of different sounds you can get out of it. Be it one better than the other, that's for you to decide. But jazz bass, you can get the jazz bass sound. Both of them, you can get the bridge jazz pickup sound. But in terms of the differences between all the pickups together and just them soloed, I think a PJ gets you more sounds and more better sounds. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. For me, I think it's a PJ. If you're stuck on a desert island, you'd probably want a PJ to kind of cover more, pun intended, bases. So yeah, I'm going to go with PJ. Thank you so much for the question. Let's move on to the next segment. This is my favorite segment of the show. It is called That Tone You Own. This week, I alluded to it earlier, we are taking a listen to the giveaway bass. You can hear more from this bass in the video that I've just released on my YouTube channel, but I thought we'd do a bit more of a candid chat about the sound of this bass and what it can do, etc. So you guys voted to have Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in this bass. It's just a standard P bass, so great choice. I think they're timeless pickups that everybody seems to know and love. So let's have a listen to it broken down a little bit first, shall we? So this is just going straight into through my pedal board and then into the Line 6 HX Stomp. I've got everything disengaged on the pedal board at the minute, and we will get into that in a moment. But this is just going into the Gallion-Kruger head and then the Ampeg SVT 8x10. It seems to be my favorite setup at the minute. So this is just it, tone all the way on with a pick. Pretty sweet already. Let's listen to that open E or D. Pretty good. Pretty standard. The strings are fairly new, but they're going out a little bit, so it's not as bright as it normally would be. Let's take that tone to 50%. Go to finger style. Pretty cool. Whip the tone all the way off. Pretty cool. Okay, so now reminder of it with the tone all the way on with a pick. Let's whack the Sansamp in there too. Match made in heaven. I love a P bass and a Sansamp. Pretty cool. Now let's whack. Now this is a new pedal for me that you wouldn't have heard on this channel. It's because I'm borrowing it at the minute, and it is the Pork and Pickle by Way Huge. This is the distortion circuit, kind of clean blend, fairly up, clean tone up. Yeah, kind of like 10 o'clock on the volume and the drive. Here we go. So what's cool about this pedal is that it can also do fuzz. Give us a second. Let's switch it over. Exactly the same settings, but on the fuzz section. Let's turn the drive up. Drive up, volume down a bit. Back over to the overdrive. Yeah, I could just play with these settings on this pedal all day because it is a lot of fun. But yeah, there's just little tones that I'm enjoying at the minute. I really like this pedal. I think it's cool. I'm currently shooting it out between that and the Alpha Omega, so maybe we'll do a video on that. Maybe we won't. We'll see. Yeah, that's it. Make sure you enter this giveaway. I'll give all the details again at the end. Once again, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next segment. Last question. This makes up the big bass debate. We had so many good questions this week, really good ones. So this one I thought was particularly timely, though, with a competition I recently entered. And it got me thinking about this as well. And I've kind of spoken about it a little bit before, but I thought I'd reiterate it in this answer. So Chad on Instagram has asked, if you get an endorsement from any bass manufacturer, who would it be? Hello everyone, this is me from my garden speaking now instead of my microphone. Just realised that I've answered this question completely wrong. Endorsement, of course, is talking about when you get like cheap guitars or like them sent to you to use, you know, like endorsed by Music Man or something like that. And that would be my answer for that. Probably Music Man to get a nice stingray. I answered this question totally differently about like signature guitars. So sorry, Chad. Sorry about that. But yeah, enjoy my answer. Anyway, back to the normal podcast. Goodbye. And, you know, I have a lot of things morally about why I choose certain companies. And, you know, I think just what my ethos is mainly what pulls into it. So recently I started thinking about this because I designed a bass to enter Byte Guitars, to enter their competition that they're doing. Basically, if you build your own custom guitar, send them the design, they send it to a panel of judges and they pick who the winner is. Now, I did not win this competition and I probably didn't come close, having looked at who the winner was and their bass. You know, I was like, oh, that's way wackier than what I did. So I kind of just did what I liked, which was a maple neck, pearloid block inlays, black body, like a black pearloid pick guard, white pickups, jazz bass, PJ configuration. Anyway, it's on my Instagram if you want to go and check out that bass that I designed, as well as all the runners up, if you like. And that did get me thinking about what would I do for my own custom bass, but that's a topic for another day, or a topic that we've already covered on here, but that's always changing. Anyway, in terms of manufacturer, who would it be? I think for me, it would have to be a manufacturer that, you know, obviously does good quality, but also affordability. It would break my heart to go and release like a Fender Signature and then it costs like $2,000 for someone to buy. I just think, who is that for? Like, surely somebody, if they like, I guess if they really love that artist, but what's the point? What's the point in releasing it? Because who's going to buy it? Okay, like some fanatics, but then really, don't you want it to be accessible? And that's the thing that I care a lot about. Would want basically what I'm getting on to is Squire. They used to do loads of artist models, and they sold like hotcakes. And I remember an interview with Pete Wentz from Fallout Boy with his. Do you remember his classic P base? It was the maple neck, black body, bright red pit guard, and then like the red like bat heart decal on it as well. In my opinion, pretty hideous looking, but at the time I loved it at the time. And he said in an interview, he was like, well, when I started playing, like I couldn't afford anything, and like so I just wanted something that was, you know, cheap and got me going and got me started, and that's the kind of people he wanted to inspire. And I just resonated with that so much, and it's just something that I've completely carried forward in with YouTube and everything really, that you don't need, you know, but I say this all the time, that you don't need the most expensive gear to sound good or half decent, you know. You can go a long way with not a lot of money. You know, of course it all costs a lot of money, but in terms of the scale of what you can spend on guitars, so for me, I would want something to kind of aim for that target audience. I feel like it would just be totally wrong with me. I'd be thinking like, oh, who am I? I'd be a bit embarrassed, I think, to release something that's like thousands of pounds. And, you know, power to the people that do it. It's fine. I'm not criticizing them directly. It's often, it won't be their choice or whatever. But I don't know. I wouldn't feel right doing it myself. I would want something to be affordable. But of course, it's got to be good, and it's got to be attractive, you know, because they've got to sell more in order to make up the cost of it. And of course, you know, it's potentially a bigger risk to do something at an affordable rate that you have to mass produce, because then if that doesn't sell, that is a lot of wasted stock and a lot of wasted stock to store. So I understand from a business point of view why it's not a brilliant decision, maybe, but there's plenty of artists out there now, or that I'm sure that they could make some fantastic artist models of. Anyway, so power to Squire, bring them back. Come on, bring us back some artist models. But going back to what I would choose, so, you know, Squire would be a good one. I would be worried about quality control, though. I would perhaps be concerned that I wouldn't want my name to be on a product that's going out. Although it's not my fault, it's not the best quality. I don't want it to be a failure, you know. I want people to enjoy it and love it and get on with it. That is the case with thousands of Squires, you know. But then with the select few, can kind of give it a bad reputation. And I've been on the receiving end of that when some Squires I've had haven't been up to scratch, and then some have been absolutely zero problems. But it's that quality control issue that might push me away from putting my name on a signature bass like that. Then I'd lead to think about other brands that I enjoy that are affordable. And really two came to my head. Harley Benton being one. I know they've done artist models before, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think they've got a fantastic reputation. They are by far the best value guitars, I think. Maybe don't retain their value. That's the only thing, because of the brand and what they are. But you know, there's other moral questions, I suppose, around labor costs and how it's so cheap. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, it's so cheap because they cut out the middleman as well. But yeah, anyway, topic for another day perhaps. But all of that aside, that would be a good one. Again, I'd be more confident about the quality, weirdly, just in terms of consistency, and the price would be even lower. I feel like there's more you could do, maybe. I don't know, it could be exciting. But for me, I kind of landed on a bit of a middle ground, but one that is maybe a bit more expensive, or would be, but wouldn't be impossibly expensive, and that is Schecter. I'm always flying the flag for Schecter. I think they're a fantastic company. And I think that they are really underrated, and a lot of people are just like, yep, they're just metal. But they're not. They do like kind of retro looking guitars as well, and that's the ones that I really like. And I really love all of the takes that they do on the traditional basses, like a semi-hollow. Their semi-hollow is amazing, I think, or it looks amazing. It's like their take on the Jack Cassidy. I think that the P basses that they do are phenomenal. CC's exotic Schecter, the 4-string, that thing's awesome. And the Model T that I've got, it's the second one I've owned now, and it's still just as good as I remember. Really fantastic basses. So Schecter, I think, just have that gleaming bit of quality there that I think is really underrated, and I'd love to stand behind a brand like that, because those who know you know. So I know that they can do the modern stuff really good. I know they can do the vintage style stuff really good. I would go for like a modern playing and feeling vintage aesthetic and sounding bass. I think that's where I kind of sit the most. I love the looks of older ones, and probably the sound a bit more, especially if it's more stripped back and not like active electronics. So that's a bit more me. But then with modern playability, so a nice satin neck that is fast to play and set up well, that kind of thing is more my cup of tea. So I think Schecter would be my answer for this, or where I would go to. There are other brands like Sterling. Of course, I know they do guitar ones for guitar players, and Sire as well. I know they don't do any artist models really, but both all fantastic and good runners up. I think Sire, I don't think I would go to, just because, well, I don't really know. I think the headstock would put a lot of people off, and it doesn't really bother me that much, but I would rather something that doesn't alienate a lot of people from the get-go. I don't know. I'm quite a bit of a people pleaser like that, see. But anyway, yeah, I think finally my answer would be Schecter, just because of their versatility and their track record, and it's just a really cool company. So that is my answer, and that is the end of this week's podcast. Like I said, there might be some changes coming up. We're going to be doing more guests, more regular guests as well, people coming back, etc. So yeah, keep your eyes out. This podcast isn't going nowhere, because I enjoy it too much, and I hope you do too. If you do enjoy it, don't forget to, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, leave a comment down below, or give this video a like and subscribe, of course. And of course, give it a 5-star rating in your listening app of choice, like Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or whatever the bloody hell it's called. Leave us a 5-star review. Let me know what you think. Reach out on Instagram, share it on Instagram, all that good stuff. Share it with your mates, share it with your guitar friends. We sometimes talk about guitar stuff. It crosses over, we can be friends. So share it with them, and let me know what they say. If they tell you to bugger off, then let me know, and I'll go and talk to them about it. No, probably not. Don't forget to go and enter the competition if you want to win the bass that you heard earlier in this podcast. It's a great opportunity. It is shipping worldwide as well. So make sure that you go and leave a comment on a video in that playlist to enter. The winner will be announced during my live stream on the 14th of September. I can't wait to give that thing away. Not because I want it to go, but because it feels like it's been going on for ages, and I'm just like, I just want someone to have it and enjoy it and put it to good use. I've got too many here. I've got too many. You need it. I'm talking to you, okay? You need it. Once again, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.